Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. So glad you're here. What we got going on today? Well, it's Fed Day, right? This is the day where the Fed comes out and they blow the sunshine at us. They tell us how great the economy is. In other words, they tell us bold-faced lies. We'll see how it all plays out, but what's happened? Well, the market's had a correction, down 8% NASDAQ, 6% S&P, came bouncing back up, right? We're right up against the 50-day, got rejection, heading lower. Now, the Fed does have the power to blow the sunshine, and maybe they can push us through that 50-day, but I don't think so. We'll see how that plays out. I think we're going to actually come back and retest the recent lows, maybe even make a new lower low before we head back up. And this is a topping pattern, Right now, we got rejection at the 50-day, but it's not the last time we're going to come up and bounce against that 50-day. I don't think so. That's the topping pattern. Now, if it gets rejected and then rejected again, we're going to come a lot lower. This is just my take. Now, some people, they ask me about the gold price, right? Gold had a big drop yesterday. And I think that's a gift. I think it's a buying opportunity. I would love to see gold get pushed down to the 2200 level. People are afraid to buy it at this level because it is close to a record high about 2400. We're around 2300, and I'd like to see it come down a little bit more, but I'm not sure it will. I do think we're going to go much higher. Even though we're at a record high, it's still relatively cheap compared to other assets, compared to the Dow Jones, for example. So I think it's a buying opportunity in gold, and I do think we're going to head lower in the stock market. We'll see how that all plays out. Fed Day today. Very exciting. The market can move in either direction. Now watch. A lot of times when it moves in one direction, it will reverse. People have a initial reaction, but then they start to think about it, and the real reaction happens. That's just a little tidbit there for you. All right. I want to talk a little bit about what it's kind of been swept under the rug, but we did have that bank failure over the weekend. You know, Friday is a very unlucky day for banks. All the banks always fail on Friday. Why is that? Well, you got to protect the stock market, right? You notice how the invasions usually happen over the weekend. Why? You got to protect the stock market. Our military won't give the go-ahead for any invasions that happen in the middle of the week. So when they're planned out like the last few have been, they're always going to happen on the weekend. Just like this bank failure happened after the market closed on Friday, and Republic First, not First Republic. First Republic already went down. This is Republic First. It's not even related to the other bank, but it went down, right? A little small bank, I don't know, $7 or $8 billion in assets. So it's a small bank, but it's a big problem for the Fed. But I want to talk a little bit about why it went down. Now, this is fascinating. It went down for the same reason every other banker went down. You see, the banks, what they do is they buy long-term dated treasuries. And when the rates went from 0% to 5%, those lost 30, 40% of their value. So they lost the money that you deposited into the bank, and that money's gone. What else did they do with it? They put it out in commercial loans, on commercial properties, on apartment buildings, on shopping malls, on office buildings. And what happened to these? They got chopped down by about 50%. So these loans are down at least 40%. So they lost 30% of your money in bonds, 40% of your money in commercial-backed mortgages, right? So the banks have lost your money. They're all insolvent. None of them are safe. Now, some they call too big to fail, but I bet you a couple of the too big to fail, at least one of them's going down. Now, there's a lot of chatter on the street that's going to be either Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Those are the ones that are the most in trouble. See, Chase is the closest to the Fed. They can get all the money they want from the Fed. Now, Wells Fargo is going to get bailed out. Bank of America going to get bailed out. Too big to fail. But this bank, Republic First, not too big to fail. They did the merger thing, right? The FDIC came in, took all the bad assets, which me and you get to pay for, right? The taxpayers, we get to pay for the bad assets. The good assets went to Fulton Bank. Fulton Bank took all the good assets, and then the Republic First gets to open on, it opened Monday under the name Fulton Bank, right? Okay. Well, that made sense for one bank. Now, why did it fail though? Why did it fail? Well, what happened is that the Bank Term Funding Program, it came to an end. Now, what is the Bank Term Funding Program? It's where the people, the banks, they can take all that bad paper, the commercial mortgage-backed securities, the bonds, and they can go and give it to the Fed, and the Fed will give them 100% back, right? Like if you bought Apple stock and Apple stock went down by 50%, and you can't take the loss because that'd show up on the books. So you just go to the Fed and they give you all your money back, right? You go to Vegas, you bet red or black, you lose, you go to the Fed, Fed makes you whole. Okay, well, do they have the money to do that? No, they don't. They print that money, right? And who gets to pay for that? Whose neck is on the line? My neck, your neck is out on the line, right? Okay, but now this program came to an end in March. Now, it's interesting that it took a whole month before the first bank went down. Now, even Jerome Powell says there's going to be many, many more bank failures. They have a list of them. It's kind of funny. The banks that have been failing, the 6 largest ones, were not on the list, right? So they have a list of the ones that are in trouble, but the ones that are failing are not on the list. So it really means that every bank should be on the list because every bank's insolvent. There's no bank that has your money. Any bank that gets a run, they're in trouble. They're going to go down. They're going to go under. But this Bank Term Funding Program came to an end. So Republic First, they had nowhere to go to get money, right? They had nowhere to go. So they had to go out. They were the first one of this year. But there's going to be many, many more. Hundreds more. Hundreds. Jerome Powell says there's going to be many. I say it's going to be hundreds. We'll see how fast it happens. But when one goes, it's kind of a domino effect, right? Now watch Fulton Bank. I bet you that one's not safe. They just picked up assets from Republic First. I bet they'll go by the end of the year. I'll bet they'll be out of business. Just my take, right? And people go, but Mike, the FDIC, they come in, they protect my money. Look, the FDIC doesn't have your money. They have less than 1 cent. They have a half a cent for every dollar, right? If you got $100 in the bank, you'll get 50 cents back when this whole thing starts to go down. Now, don't get me wrong. They're going to print money, but this is going to be too big. It's going to be too big to print the money. So they are going to do partial bail-ins, right? Never happened in the United States. Happened in Europe already, right? But it's called a bail-in. What's a bail-in, Tall Mike? It's where they take your deposits to pay for the losses that they had. It's a bail-in. Like the whole banking system, it's failing, right? It's failing. And when the banking system fails, the lending will crumble. It will crumble right along with the banking system. They won't be able to make loans. They won't be able to be mortgages to go out and buy your house. What happens when there's only cash buyers? Well, when there's only cash buyers, historically, 30, 40, 50% off because people will not be able to get a mortgage because of the banking system. The banking system is going to be going down. Yes, this crash is going to be a lot different from the '08 crash. The '08 crash happened because people weren't paying their mortgages. Now they're paying their mortgages, but the banks are still losing money on those because they're locked in at 2.8%. Bank has to pay 5 or 6%. So every time you make a payment, they're losing half the money, right? Because they got to pay twice as much as you're paying. So they're losing money on that. When the banks go under, when the system goes down, lending starts to crumble. They won't be able to get the mortgage to buy your house. Nobody will be able to buy your house. Eventually, someone will have to sell. I know you're locked in. You're locked in at 2.8%. I get that. And in your area, nobody ever sells. Nobody dies. Nobody gets divorced. Nobody loses a job. Nobody gets transferred to a different location. It's a beautiful area you live in. But I'm telling you, when people can't get a mortgage, it just takes one person to sell. And then when that happens, see, houses, they're sold at the margin, right? They're sold at the margin. When one person sells, the whole neighborhood goes down, right? Because that person's going to have to sell to a cash buyer 40% off. Your house goes down by 40%. Will you be able to go out and refinance your house? No, you won't. You see, I want to talk a little bit about this. This is fascinating to me. See, in the last 2 years, Buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse. Okay. That's when someone goes and buys the house and then they have these big regrets that they bought the house. Now, what were they told when they went to buy a house? What were they told? Well, if they listened to Barbara Cochran, they'd say, hurry up and buy a house because mortgage rates are going to drop and the house is going to boom. You can refinance at this lower rate. It's going to be like a cash machine for you. Just listen to Barbara Cochran. Well, people that bought in the last 2 years, mortgage rates haven't really dropped. Houses really haven't gone up. They're finding out that inflation's gone up. They're finding out that their tax bill's gone up. They're finding out that their insurance has gone up. Their utility bill's gone up. The maintenance has gone up. Everything's gone up, and they are strapped because they're house poor. 78%. 78% have buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse in the last 2 years. If you bought a house in the last 2 years, you're probably in that 78%. I'm telling you, it's just not a good time to buy a house right now. Now, I tell people to rent. That's what they should do if you're renting. Be patient. Time's on your side. It's not on the seller's side. Eventually, the seller has to sell. You do not have to buy until this plays out, till the carnage is done, till the opportunities are there. And believe me, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. There's going to be opportunities for everybody, but wait for it to play out. It hasn't even started yet. I mean, we're down 5% in some areas. My areas, some areas of it are down 10%. Some areas are flat, but this carnage hasn't played out yet. Look at the job losses are coming. The recession's coming. Everything's coming. I believe we're already in a recession. That's a whole nother tape. But we could talk about that, right? But the job losses are still on the way. 2.8% is really good. Until you don't have a job, then it kind of sucks, doesn't it, right? Because you still got to make the payment and you have no way to get money. And you start to see the houses dropping 10, 20, 30%. All of a sudden you're underwater. You can't get out of your house. You just dump it onto the market or send the keys back to the bank. Banks are already contacting me because the default rate is actually skyrocketing. The defaults are going up. But right now, if I were you, I would just stay as a renter. You know, it's 37% cheaper to rent a house than it is to buy the house. Now, look, I understand the benefits of home ownership. I'm a real estate broker. I believe in property. I believe in owning a house. I believe in home ownership. But now is just not the time. I'm not saying to rent your whole life. I'm not saying to rent forever. I'm saying to rent until the carnage plays out. The carnage is going to play out. The job losses, the recession, the bank failures. It's all coming to a head. It's cheaper to rent right now. Now, let me give you some cities where it's about the same to rent as it is to buy. It's kind of funny, right? All right, so you got Cleveland, you got Philadelphia, you got Pittsburgh, you got Detroit. Now, if you live in any of those cities, I apologize for picking on you, but it's no cheaper to rent in those cities. You can buy for the same price because houses don't go up in those cities, so they don't matter if you rent or buy, but that's just kind of interesting. But in the short term, if you just become a renter and just save the money, look at time, be patient. Time's on your side. Eventually, the sellers have to get out. Us baby boomers, we have our money tied up in that house. And when you start to see houses drop 10, 20%, the baby boomers are going to be running for the exit because that's our retirement. That's our retirement plan. That's all the money we got to live the golden years, right? To live the good life, right? That's our money. We're going to be dumping those houses so fast, you millennials aren't going to be able to buy them quick enough because the price will be just free falling. 30, 40, 50% off sales. The opportunities are coming, but you got to be a little bit patient. Things are starting to crumble. Things are not what they're going to tell us today. Look at Fed Powell. He's coming out. He's going to blow that sunshine right at us. He's going to tell us how strong the economy is. He's going to tell us about the resilient consumer. It's all a bunch of BS. It's crap, right? It's a fake economy. Look at the homeless camps. Homeless is the only thing that's doubling faster than the national debt, right? Homeless camps are doubling in size. They used to just be a little corner. Now they're the whole street. That's what's happening in the real economy, Jerome. You come out and tell the people about that, they'd have a little respect for you. I don't think anybody's got respect for Jerome. I know I don't. Anyways, I got a little carried away, but that's my take, right? We'll see what he has to say today, but give me a thumbs up first. Punch the subscribe button, but everybody get out there. Have a great day, and we'll talk later in the week. Bye-bye now.